This is a new feature that allow you to take a massive area. For example, we're going to import an entire county and we just want one small area of the topo. So we're going to hit File, Open, and then we're going to go into the directory where the topo is. We want a .shp file because that's the original file. The entire county's in there. We do want English. This is a contour file. And I'm going to not put any filtering in it. I'll just change the once out of every 4 points to just one. And I'm going to select the bounds. Now this area here is an entire county. It's hundreds of millions of points. I just want one small area. So what I did was I took the planimetric data, the lot data from the ESRI, and I just isolated a small area and I wrote down what the coordinates were for the north, south, east, and west bounds. And what I'm doing now is I'm inputting what I wrote down, and then I'm going to hit submit, and then it's going to break that down. So you want to trigger, which is elevations, they are contours, and you press submit, and then it's going to start breaking down the data. Now, this process before we wrote this to look at the entire county was about 48 hours. We reduced it to 5 minutes. When it's done, you're going to see the topo on the screen. It's going to be individual lines, not polylines. So what we want to do is then we want to go to create polylines from individual lines under the topography menu. And then in order for it to register that, you need to refresh the screen and then it will see the polylines. Then we're going to go into edit and polylines. And now we're going to go and use all polylines. So you want the middle button and you want automatically strip points and move that slider almost all the way to the left and hit submit. And that's going to be a good filtering for the entire site. And you'll see it won't take very long. It's done. So 189 polylines have been modified. You won't actually see that modification unless you reach up and hit either Alt-Z or reach up to the refresh, right-click that screen refresh, and then you're going to see a lot of red dots. So how many points are there that were eliminated by that filtering? We're going to go into Edit and delete unused points. You can see we eliminated 10,852 points. And then we're going to go to polylines again, and again, all polylines, and we're going to explode them. So why are we exploding something that we just created polylines on? Well, what we want to do is not take that entire area. I'm only looking at the area kind of to the east. So I'm going to isolate that area. But first, what I want to do is go to Edit, change one layer to the other layer, and I just want to move 0 to 14 just so I could get it off of layer 0. I forgot to. And then I'm going to define an area that I want to eliminate the polyline. So I'm going to go to layer 13, go to make line, and go around the area that I don't want in the topo. So these are now individual lines, and I want to exclude that area because I just don't need them. I don't need the overhead and I don't need the time. So I'm going to hit escape, and then to get out of that function, refresh the screen, surfaces, and I'm going to name it. I'm just going to type in AAA and then snap to that line that I just created. Then I'm going to go into edit and I'm going to delete by area and just say AAA and select that and just hit submit. So as you can see, all those individual lines are being taken out of the area that I do not want. And in this function, it's automatically going to delete that AAA so you don't have to then delete it afterwards. Refresh the screen, edit, delete by layer, get rid of that layer 13, and now we have a fairly clean, efficient base to work with. You see those little red dots, that's from the layer 13. I'd go ahead and delete unused points and then save it away. So if save your work as you're doing this, I already had a file called junk, and it's showing that we have a smaller file. Do I want to save it? That's just a warning in case a file gets too small or maybe you've made a mistake. Files, as you work on them, should get bigger till you delete things and they get smaller. And that's just a new warning that we put onto the software. So what we're doing now is converting them back to polylines. I want to take my shoreline, change, right click, change the layer to water edge, and now I've got a water edge. And then the next step is to take the what we call the noses. We're on layer 13, and we're going to connect what we call the noses to help guide uh, these polylines. They're essentially the break lines. And you really want to take these definitions. If you want something to really be close to the original data, you've got to help guide it because otherwise there could be flat spots. And this is true with all software. It's not just LandMentor. It's any software. If you're using CAD or whatever, if you want an accurate surface, you're going to need to go through this step. And then once you get all the break lines you want to go ahead create the digital terrain model under topography. It takes it a minute. Uh, you'll see if there's any crossing lines. It's going to give you a warning because we want to really have a perfect digital terrain model to replicate the contours. And when it does show you the contours, what you want to see is a transition from red to green. If everything is red or everything is green, you've got a bad elevation. In other words, there's some errant point in there that's so far off that you don't see the transition. In this case, you can see there's some area crossing the lake here, so we're just going to go into edit, and then we're going to take any of the flat areas, use the left button to take these areas out of the topo so you don't have to like define an area for a topo. We're just going to use the net and we're going to take these areas out. Now the interesting thing is when you do earthwork, these areas are not going to be included in the earthwork. So you're also taking areas out of the earthwork. Here you could see that we've taken the area I just showed you and we imported that into an overall DTM that was filtered much greater because that's really outside our site. We added some more definition over the lake so we get some elevations in there so we could show a lake. And then we create the digital terrain model. And here you can see that DTM has been imported to the site, and we've created a VR on that site, a database, and then I'm just going to start my Unity so I can take a look at the VR. I could put on the VR headsets, I can move around the site, and then this is the site that we've got in VR, and we've got a great, good, tight base to do earthwork, to do street design, to do 3D without an excessive amount of data. So this new feature, we reduced just reading in the data from 48 hours to less than 5 minutes, and then you could go to the filtering. As you see, this is all in real time into your site, and it really is very, very fast, and we hope you enjoy this new feature in LandMentor.